Interviews with business owners and veteran executives who share their wisdom and expertise to help you de-stress, free up time, and make more money. Profits of IT.
Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I am Jim Hundenberger, your host, and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System that generate new clients or partners without cold calling, ad spend, or spamming. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com. I have Nathan with me today. He's been a long-time veteran in the industry, a head of product for multiple large companies. He also has a consulting business, does product consulting. Nathan, please introduce yourself and tell us a quick bit more about you.
Yeah, sure. So great to be on your podcast, I should say, Jim. Thanks for inviting me. Quick breakdown of my background. So longtime veteran of the product management industry, worked for a lot of companies, Salesforce, Zuora, currently working for startups in the Bay Area here, mainly in the trucking and logistics industry. I also angel invest in my spare time. I have a small syndicate that I run on AngelList, and I also do product consulting. So, when you've been in the industry as long as I have, people come to you with ideas and you either want to build it for them or, invest in it. So that's kind of how those two things came about. But yeah, other than that, wife and 2 kids living here in the Bay Area and pretty happy. So yeah.
Sweet. Sounds like life is good.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something interesting about yourself outside of work?
Outside of work, well, work is life. So, there's not too much interesting about me outside of work. But I suppose I've traveled to a lot of countries, lived in a lot of countries. I'm originally Australian, hence the opening music, if anyone recognizes that song. And lived in, the UK, Singapore, Malaysia, quite a few different countries in my life. But finally settled down here in the great US of A. So, yeah.
So you settling in the USA means the USA is your favorite, or is that just where you decided to settle?
The USA has a lot of pros to it, I gotta say, but I think after a while you just get tired of traveling and you end up where you end up. and so I ended up where I ended up. And luckily it's, Silicon Valley in the Bay Area. So this is the place to be for tech, right? So definitely was a good place to end up in.
Cool. So what has been, out of all the places that you visited, what has been your favorite place you visited in the world?
Probably a couple places, but I like Bali a lot. Bali's very relaxing. It's got the beaches, it's got the mountains, it's got, pretty much anything, food as well. I'm a big foodie. And then Cabo. I really like Cabo for some reason. I think as I get older, I just like going to somewhere and just staying in the resort and not having to go see the ruins or the churches or the vineyards or anything like that.
Just sit in the resort and look at the ocean and watch the whales.
Exactly. Watch the whales and watch life go by. I think as I get older, I appreciate that a lot more.
Got it. So I guess shifting back to business now, question for you is, what would you say is your superpower when it comes to business? And how did that come about?
Yeah, I'd say really my superpower, and it's just through length of time in the industry, really, more than anything else, is really understanding complex B2B SaaS processes. So, this started in my career way back when. I mean, I was originally, 20 years ago, an SAP consultant. And if you know anything about SAP, that's a complex system, very complex system. And I think that kind of set the tone for my future career as well. So, really back office, complex, processes that involve multiple stakeholders, maybe multiple companies even, which is why it's not surprising I've ended up in trucking and supply chain, that all involve some element of complexity, and really kind of understanding those processes, getting close to customers. I love talking to customers. I think, you discover a whole range of things that you never knew when you really speak to customers in B2B, which is the fundamental difference with B2C. I have a lot of friends that are, B2C product managers, and they, it's not that they don't talk to users, but they live and die by metrics, right? Because they are able to test things at scale with users. In B2B SaaS, you don't typically measure things by monthly active users or daily active users. That's not the right metric to measure B2B SaaS processes or change management, right? And so, B2B SaaS, despite it involving businesses, I think has a lot more empathy to it with humans, right? Talking to humans, talking to customers, finding out what their problems are, exploring different ways to solve their problems. I think really that's my superpower, is being able to do that and get to the root of very, very complex problems and understand them. I think think it's also what makes me a good investor and a good product consultant as well.
Got it. So, any tips on somebody that wanted to improve in this area?
I mean, put yourself out there. I mean, I think, one of those, there's the 10,000 hour rule, right? I think many people have heard of that. Maybe your audience has heard of that, saying, you really, to be an expert at anything, you need to spend 10,000 hours in it, right?
Yes.
And this is no different, right? And so, the first time you do anything, you'll be terrible at it. The second time you do it, you'll probably still be terrible at it. By the 100th time that you do something, you'll probably be okay at it, And so, one of the things, I was terrible at doing demos of products, for example, but I just kept doing it, kept putting myself out there, making mistakes. And eventually I got pretty good at it and pretty confident at it, to the point now where I can, learn a product in 5 minutes and demo it in the next 5 minutes, I believe, at least. So, I think it's really about putting yourself out there, practice, experience, right? And you naturally start to learn your own voice. You naturally start to learn your own way of doing things, right? And that's why it's okay when you're starting out. It's very good to just copy someone, right? Find a person that you admire that does that thing really well and just copy them. And eventually, when you do it enough times, you eventually find your own voice and your own way of doing things. So that's the best advice I can give, is practice, practice, practice. And eventually you'll learn to love it. You'll learn to be good at it. So
any other thoughts or tips around this?
There's no substitute for talking for customers. So, as I was saying earlier, just getting out there and doing it. And I think also starting to be good at listening, right? I also had to train myself in that, to product management. One of the very underrated skills is listening. And that goes for actually all the other areas as well. Angel investing, because you're typically listening to pitches from entrepreneurs, or it's whether you're doing product consulting and you're listening to a customer elucidate their problems. Listening is a very, very important skill. And I was not a good listener when I started out in my career. It was actually one of the things that was raised in one of my performance reviews, but I worked on it, right? And I try very hard now to truly listen to what people are saying, to play things. And there's something called, active listening, right? Being able to play back what someone has said in your own words that show that you understand, right? And not necessarily proposing a solution, right? And one of the things about product management is you really need to understand the problem. I was reading an article the other day that when a customer says something, ask 5 whys, at least 5 whys. Oh, we prefer this product over your product. Why? Oh, well, it's because it has this feature. Why? Oh, well, it's because this feature actually helps me do X. Ah, okay. And now I realize you're actually trying to find a solution to X, to this thing that you're struggling with, right? And so maybe you'll come up with a better solution than what that feature does, right? But you have to be continuously active listening, probing, moving the conversation in a particular direction to really get to the root of what is the problem or what the actual person is trying to pitch or what they're trying to tell you. So I think that's a highly underrated skill, listening, and that's something that and anyone can become good at if they practice at it and focus on it.
Any final thoughts regarding your superpower?
No, I mean, I think those, listening, talking to customers, getting to the root of really what their issue is, right? Because mainly I've learned many domains in my career, from CRM to ERP to now trucking and logistics, right? And all of it, I had to educate myself from the ground up on that domain, right? And so you can learn anything. It's just getting enough experience and putting focus and your mind to it and really educating yourself to the point where you can even surprise yourself and you start sounding like an expert, about what customers need and what they're struggling with and really where their pain points are. And that's really, one of the key roles of a product manager, is to understand the problem. It's not necessarily to solve the problem. That's what engineering does. Although you do need to speak a little bit to the solution to get to a good solution. But engineering solves the problem. You present the problem. You focus on the right problem. And I've seen so many software products that focused on the wrong problem, or it was a cool idea and the entrepreneur thought, oh, people will come because this is a cool idea. Or they got one customer that really liked it, but not, that wasn't enough to really build a business on, and they got a seed and they got a Series A and then they failed after Series A. That happens so often, right? Startups are pretty perilous journeys, and you got to be prepared for that.
Got it. So we got a networking moment here. Anybody that should be reaching out to you? Who should be reaching out to you? Or why should they be reaching out to you?
Anyone and everyone. So reach out to me if you've got a project and you need product advice on the problem set or research on it. Happy to work with you and give my thoughts. If you're an entrepreneur with a great idea, connect with me on LinkedIn and pitch me. Obviously, I prefer B2B SaaS. I tend not to focus on consumer or other types of products. I try to focus, like Warren Buffett says, focus on what you know. And I B2B SaaS. So So definitely, if you've got a B2B SaaS startup, reach out to me. And yeah, just anyone that's willing to that wants to chat on product or, talk about product, I'm always open. So yeah, that would be the type of person to network and chat with.
So, and you mentioned LinkedIn. Is that the best way for them to get a hold of you if somebody wanted to reach out?
Yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn and say you heard of me from the podcast, Jim's podcast, and I get a lot of LinkedIn requests. So, so just mention that you were on Jim's podcast, and then I know where you came from.
Cool. And then it's Nathan, and your last name is Creswell.
That's right, Nathan Creswell.
Look that up on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time here today and sharing so freely. It's been wonderful having you on.
No problems, Jim, and thank you for the choice of song. It makes me homesick.
And until next time on the Profits of IT, I am Jim Punzenberger, your host, the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Profits of IT. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and share.